Good morning, guys. We are going to try out a new Crockpot recipe today, and I'm excited about that. So I'm going to start by spraying down my Crockpot with some cooking spray. I'm going to add in some chopped onion. This is just from the freezer that is mostly thawed. I'm a little bit hesitant to do that only because I really only like onion in dishes when it's been like really sauteed, but I'm going to assume that it's going to be the way I like it if it's in the fridge or in the crock pot all day. So that is the plan. All right, let's see. We're going to also take, you need 2.5 pounds of russet potatoes. That's a really yucky end. My potatoes are really small. You want to cut them into, what does it say, 2-inch chunks? I don't know. But mine are really small, probably because they are organic. And so a lot of times, sometimes organic stuff is not as huge. But I don't know if this, I don't even remember how big of the bag that I bought because it's not still in the bag. I took it out and like transferred the potatoes to where I store them. But I just, I rubbed them down really good. They have a pretty thin skin because when I was just cleaning them, some of the skin came off. So I'm not gonna worry about peeling them. I don't mind like the peels in my, stuff anyway from potatoes, but they're definitely not very, they're not very tough because yeah, it was just coming off when I was cleaning them. So we're gonna just chop these up. I don't know if I'm gonna be doing the exact right amount, but that's okay. I will say, I'll have the recipe linked below. I will say that some in the comments were saying that it wasn't soupy enough, like it was too, there wasn't enough broth, which of course you could just add more broth. But if I have not enough potatoes, I'm not super worried about it because I feel like it'll probably just be a little bit more brothy. But if you do it exactly by the recipe, you may end up wanting to add some more broth, but maybe start with what they suggest. So anyways, that is just something to keep in mind. I don't know, because I've never made this one before, but I figure I can either add more broth or I can add more cheese or something else to like thicken it up if it's too brothy. But I'm just doing however many potatoes. I have no idea what 2.5 pounds of potatoes would look like. And so, I don't know. All right, so I think I cut them smaller than what the recipe says, but that's fine. I mean, some of them are the right size, but some will just be more cooked than others, but that's okay because we're gonna partially mash this anyway. So I'm gonna add in, what does it say? 1/2 teaspoon of salt. That's probably a little bit more, but I think it needs more. Also, because my chicken broth does not have any salt in it. So I usually add, actually I'm gonna add a little bit more salt. I have some homemade chicken broth, and so there is, I don't usually salt mine when I make it. That way it's just kind of neutral for regardless of what recipe I use it in. And then we're just gonna add in some garlic. I'm just gonna add in the remainder of this jar. Forget burning a candle. I could just leave this empty jar open on my counter all day and enjoy the fragrance of a candle, or the fragrance of garlic rather. I feel like that's a really good smell for a candle. So you don't even have to burn anything. I love the smell of garlic. Okay, now the recipe only calls for 2 cups of chicken broth, which is a little bit surprising. And like I said, people in the comments, a couple people just said it wasn't very brothy. I have this that is just left over from, I don't know, that I had just had in the freezer. It's just probably like a 1/2 cup. So I decided to add that in as well. Like I said, I make my own chicken broth, and so I just pulled this from the freezer. This one is not fully thawed, so just gonna work it in there, but it is 2 cups worth. All right, that is it for now, unless you like to cook with pepper. That is in the recipe, and obviously most people do add that, but I'm not really a huge fan. So we are going to cook this on high for 4 hours or low 6 to 8. I'm gonna do low because I actually got this going early enough in the day. And then we will add the rest of the stuff later. Okay, so it has been 7 hours. Let's take this off and show you what it looks like. Woo, it's hot in there. So you can see pretty good. Okay, so we're gonna add in the rest of our ingredients. We've got 8 ounces of cream cheese. I did kind of soften this. I pulled it out maybe 40 minutes ago and just kind of sat it on the counter next to the slow cooker so that the heat from that would kind of help soften it. This in here. All right, now I'm gonna add in about a cup of cheese. I am using a New York sharp cheddar. I don't remember if the recipe specified for this, but I wanted, personally, I love the sharp flavor of that, and I wanted that in here. And then it says a cup and a half, I think, let's see, a cup and a half of heavy cream. This was all I could get at the store, all the Aldi had. So I don't know how much it is. Let's see. Probably the whole thing, but I'll measure it just, I don't know, to see. Actually, no, I'm not, because I don't want to dirty a measuring cup. We're just gonna put this in and it's gonna be what it's gonna be. And then it says that you want to use a potato masher. I'm gonna use my little meat chopper from Pampered Chef to blend the soup together. If you want a totally smooth soup instead of like a chunkier one, you can use an immersion blender, but I definitely, you know, want some potato chunks in our soup. So just going to mash it up. And this thing definitely does not mash as much as like a potato masher does, even though I use this to mash my potatoes. But the potato mashers have like a, you know, the flat bottom. So this will definitely leave a lot of chunks, but I want to mash it up pretty good because, so I'm not going to let it leave a lot of chunks. The potatoes being mashed will also help thicken the soup. So I don't think I'm going to have the trouble with it being too thick, like some people said, but I also didn't measure the amount of potatoes, so, or the amount of heavy cream. But it also hasn't thickened up yet because, you know, the cream cheese is not fully incorporated. I did just bump it up to high, and I think what I'm going to do is leave the lid off of the slow cooker, because I do feel like it might be a little bit, I don't know, it might not be too soupy. But if you do that, that'll help evaporate some of the liquid. So I'm gonna do that and just keep an eye on it. I'm not going anywhere. So I'm just gonna keep mashing. You know what I'm gonna do? Talking to you guys like you're here live with me in the kitchen. Hang on a second. So I am gonna use my immersion blender. I'm just not gonna go until it's all smooth, but I do wanna make it smoother than what I'm getting with that thing. All right, so technically that is it to the soup, unless you just have to let like the cheese to all melt and get fully incorporated. So I'm just gonna leave it going for a little bit longer. I was thinking about just adding bacon in here, but we'll just do that with the toppings. So we'll let this continue to melt and thicken up a little bit, and then we'll serve it up. All right, guys, so just had a thought. This recipe does not call for any vegetables, really, except for the onion. And we like vegetables. So I asked my husband, I was like, should I just add broccoli in? He's like, yeah. So I have a little bit of this bag left. And then I'm just gonna add this in here. And I'm gonna pop the lid on it just to cook that broccoli up a little bit faster. You don't have to do the broccoli, but I would put broccoli on my loaded baked potato anyway, and this is a loaded baked potato soup. So that's what we're doing. So I'm just gonna let that go. Probably like, I'm thinking like 10 minutes, but we'll see. All right, so here it is. Broccoli is done. Time to eat. All right, you can top it with whatever. We topped ours with a little more cheese and some bacon pieces. And I happen to have some sourdough bread left over that I bought earlier a few days ago, which I never do, but I was really craving it that day, and I've been enjoying it. So I'm really glad to have some bread to go with the soup, and that's dinner for tonight. All right, I'm coming back to finish this video because I'm horrible at remembering to finish videos, but that soup was so good. I haven't followed a recipe for a soup in a long time. I mean, I altered it a little bit, but normally I end up just kind of combining a bunch of different recipes, which I love, but I end up putting a lot of things into the soup. So this one was really nice and different from what we normally have, and we both really liked it. So I definitely recommend it. That is it for today's video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you're new, and I will see you next time. Bye, guys.